The galaxy had grown used to a quiet order. Powerful civilizations ruled countless star systems. Their fleets were massive, their weapons deadly, and their technology far beyond anything Earth could imagine. Among these civilizations, humans were barely a whisper, a small, fragile species still tied to a blue planet called Earth. Most aliens believed humans were weak, unimportant, and incapable of affecting the galaxy in any meaningful way. Admiral Kor of the Andari fleet leaned back in his command chair and watched the sensors on the screen. "Another human scout ship," he said, his voice dripping with amusement. His clawed fingers tapped on the console. "A tiny, slow vessel. Laughable. It won't last 5 minutes in our space. I almost feel sorry for them." But even as he spoke, a small unease crept into his mind. Something about the humans' approach seemed different. It wasn't their speed, it wasn't their firepower, it was their calm. They moved with a steady confidence that no other species had shown when entering Andari territory. On board the human ship Endurance, Captain Mara stood at the observation deck looking at the stars. Her brown eyes reflected the distant suns and nebulae that stretched across space. Around her, the crew moved quietly but with purpose. Every hand knew its task. Every mind was focused. The humans had no super-advanced weapons, no impenetrable shields, but they had something else. Unity. They had courage, and they had hope. "They think we are weak," Mara said quietly, almost to herself. Then she turned to her first officer, Lieutenant Rafe. "Let them think that. Let them underestimate us. They'll learn the truth soon enough." Rafe nodded. He was tall, with a calm demeanor that balanced Mara's quiet intensity. "They won't know what hit them," he said, a small smile tugging at his lips. "We've survived worse. We've survived Earth." Mara smiled too, thinking of the planet they had left behind. Earth had been scarred by wars, by disasters, by cruelty. Yet it had also produced humans who never gave up. Humans who fought for each other, even when the odds were impossible. That spirit was now in every human aboard the Endurance. That spirit was their true weapon. As the Endurance approached the neutral space station where the first contact would occur, alien sensors picked them up. A crowd gathered, Andari, Tralax, Zorvans, and other species, all curious to see what these weak humans had to offer. They assumed they would see desperation or perhaps fear. What they did not expect was composure. High Chancellor Zorak of the Zorvans observed the humans with narrowed eyes. "Such a tiny craft," he said to his aide. "I do not understand why they have sent a single vessel into our midst." This is absurd, but Mara didn't flinch. She didn't bow. She didn't ask for permission or mercy. Humans never did. Instead, she prepared to speak the first words that the galaxy would remember. Words that would not boast or threaten, but show the essence of humanity. The humans docked, and silence fell over the station. Other species expected a show of weakness. Instead, Mara stepped forward tall and steady and said, "We come in peace. We have come to learn, and if needed, we have come to defend." There was laughter at first. A few of the aliens could not hide their amusement. "Defend? Against whom? Against us?" one of the Andari officers muttered. Mara's calm gaze met theirs, unwavering. "Not against you," she said, "but against the challenges we all face. Against the dangers we cannot ignore. Against what threatens life itself. We are small, yes, but we are not weak. That is something you will see for yourselves one day." The alien delegates exchanged puzzled glances. They had never encountered a species so fearless, so confident in their own limitations, yet unafraid to stand tall. Even Admiral Kor, watching from his ship, felt a ripple of something he had never felt before. Curiosity, and perhaps a trace of respect. As the humans disembarked, the crew moved with quiet efficiency, checking their surroundings, observing every alien face, noting every detail. There was no panic. There was no hesitation. The humans' composure and teamwork were magnetic. The aliens could feel it, even if they refused to admit it. Mara whispered to her crew one last time before the meeting began. "They think we are weak. Let them think." Soon the galaxy will learn the truth. We survive, not because we are the strongest, but because we fight together and we never give up. That is the heart of humanity. And with that, the first human steps into the wider galaxy began, not with a roar, not with a weapon, but with courage, unity, and a spirit that no alien could dismiss. The neutral space station hung like a jewel in the void, surrounded by stars that twinkled like distant candles. Alien delegates gathered in the grand atrium, their forms strange and varied, slender Zorvans with gleaming exoskeletons, hulking Andari with armored limbs, and the smooth, sinuous Trelax, whose eyes reflected every movement around them. They had all heard of humans, the small blue planet dwellers who dared to step into the galaxy. Most dismissed them as irrelevant, weak, and incapable. But Captain Mara and her crew did not appear weak. They walked steadily across the polished floor of the atrium, heads held high, their expressions calm. Every gesture carried purpose. Every glance carried intelligence. The aliens watched, skeptical, their whispers sharp and mocking. "Look at them," sneered an Andari officer, fragile, tiny, unarmed. "They think they can mingle with us?" "They have no shields, no weapons of mass destruction," added a Zorvan delegate. "Why are they here, to beg? To plead for mercy?" Mara approached the center of the chamber, her boots clicking softly against the metal floor. She stopped, took a breath, and looked around at the gathered alien leaders. Her voice, clear and steady, echoed across the atrium. "We are humans," she began. "We are not the largest species, and we do not have the strongest weapons. But we have courage, we have hope, and we have each other. That is why we come here today, not to conquer, not to dominate, but to learn and to stand together when the galaxy faces threats too great for any one race to face alone." A wave of laughter rolled through the room, harsh and sharp. The aliens could not hide their amusement. "Learn, stand together?" Zorak, the Zorvan High Chancellor, hissed. "You speak as if you are equals. You are ants compared to the great powers of the stars." Mara did not flinch. Her gaze was steady, unwavering, and full of quiet confidence. "We may be small," she said, "but do not confuse size with strength. Our strength lies in our hearts, in our minds, in our willingness to sacrifice for one another. That is something no technology, no armor, no fleet can replicate." Some of the alien delegates paused, sensing a strange intensity in her words. There was something unfamiliar about humans, a mix of fearlessness and empathy, of logic and passion, that the galaxy had rarely encountered. Just then, an alert sounded from Mara's communicator. Lieutenant Rafe's voice came through, calm but urgent. "Captain, sensors detect an unstable energy surge in the nearby sector. It's massive. Could threaten a nearby colony." Mara's eyes narrowed. She did not panic. Panic was not a human tool. "Which sector?" she asked. "The Drethran cluster," Rafe replied. "The energy readings are off the charts. If it detonates, billions could die." The alien delegates gasped. A few whispered among themselves, but none took action. They were observers, not protectors. They expected humans to freeze in fear. They expected excuses. Mara turned to the aliens, her voice steady but firm. "This is why we are here. We do not wait for others to act. We take responsibility when it is needed. If you will not help, we will. Stand aside and let us do what must be done." The room fell silent. For a moment, the aliens could not believe what they were hearing. A species they had dismissed as weak, small, and fragile was now volunteering to confront a cosmic threat they themselves feared to touch. High Chancellor Zorak leaned forward, his mandibles clicking nervously. "You are insane," he said. Mara smiled faintly. "Perhaps. Or perhaps we are brave. There is a difference. We survive not because we are the largest or the strongest or the most feared. We survive because we refuse to give up. That is what humans do." The delegates looked at one another, uneasy for the first time. Across the galaxy, humans had a reputation for unpredictability, for resilience, for doing the impossible, and now they were witnessing it firsthand. Mara's crew began preparing their ship for immediate departure. Technicians ran across consoles, checking energy levels, mapping a course, and readying their small weapon systems. It was a calm storm of efficiency, a display of humanity's ability to adapt and act under pressure. Rafe touched Mara's arm lightly. "Are you sure we can handle this?" he asked, a hint of worry in his voice. Mara looked out the observation window at the vast expanse of stars. Her jaw was firm, her eyes burning with determination. We are humans. We do not turn away from danger. We face it together. As the Endurance lifted off from the station, the alien delegates watched silently. Some were still skeptical, but many felt a strange sense of unease. Humans, they realized, were nothing like they expected. They were not weak. They were something else entirely, something dangerous in the most unexpected way. The first contact was over, but the story of humanity in the galaxy had only just begun, and already the stars themselves seemed to notice a new force rising, a force built not on fear or power, but on courage, unity, and unbreakable will. The human ship Endurance raced through the void at speeds that were impressive for its size, but still modest compared to the massive fleets of the Andari and Trelax. On the bridge, Captain Mara and her crew monitored the readings from the Drethran cluster. The energy surge was unlike anything they had ever seen, wild, unstable, and capable of annihilating entire colonies. Lieutenant Rafe's hands flew over the controls. "Captain, if this energy detonates, the nearby Drethran settlement will be destroyed in minutes. No alien fleet could reach it in time." Mara nodded, her face set with determination. "Then we will reach it. We may be small, but we will not turn away from what is right. Prepare all systems. We are going to stop this." The crew moved with a calm urgency that came from training, trust, and sheer human instinct. Engineers recalibrated the energy dampeners. Navigators charted a course through debris fields. Weapons officers prepared defensive measures not to attack but to protect the ship. Every human aboard knew the stakes, and yet none hesitated. Fear existed, of course, but it did not control them. As they approached the cluster, the scale of the danger became clear. The unstable energy mass pulsed violently, sending shockwaves through space. Smaller asteroids were flung outward, some colliding and exploding in brilliant, deadly flashes. The human sensors screamed with warnings. Rafe leaned closer to Mara. "We can't just blast it. The energy is too unpredictable. Any direct attack could trigger the detonation early." Mara clenched her jaw. "Then we have to be smarter than it. Find a way to contain it, redirect it, or stabilize it. We don't have the luxury of brute force." Hours passed as the Endurance maneuvered through the chaos. The crew worked tirelessly, their faces lit by the soft glow of consoles and the dangerous light of the energy surge ahead. It was exhausting, terrifying, and exhilarating all at once. Suddenly, a fragment of the cluster broke off and sped toward the human ship. Mara's reflexes kicked in. Evasive maneuvers. Shields at maximum. The ship shuddered violently as the fragment grazed the hull. Sparks flew. The bridge lights flickered. "Damage report," Mara called. "Minor hull breaches in the aft section," Rafe replied. "Nothing we can't repair quickly." Mara's lips pressed together in relief. "Good, keep focus. We are not done yet." The energy mass loomed closer, and the humans realized brute force would not work. They needed a plan that no alien fleet would ever consider. A plan born from human ingenuity, creativity, and courage. "Listen," Mara said, addressing the crew. "We can't fight this like a warship. We need precision, timing, and trust. Everyone must act together. This is not just skill, it's instinct. Watch each other's backs. We survive as a team," the crew nodded. There was no hesitation. They had trained for emergencies, but this was beyond any simulation. Every decision mattered, every second counted. They used small, precise energy pulses to stabilize parts of the cluster. They synchronized their maneuvers so that the ship's mass and energy fields could push the unstable fragments away from the colony. As the minutes dragged on, the human small ship danced through deadly chaos. dodging energy blasts and fragments, and slowly bending the dangerous mass to their will. It was delicate, dangerous work. One wrong move could trigger the destruction they were trying to prevent. Finally, with a coordinated effort, the humans managed to stabilize the energy surge enough to prevent a catastrophic explosion. The Drethran settlement, thousands of kilometers away, was safe. The shockwaves dissipated, leaving only the faint glimmer of danger in the distance. The crew exhaled together, some leaning against consoles, some holding their heads in relief. Mara allowed herself a brief smile, but her eyes never left the starfield. "We did it," she said softly, "but this is just the beginning. We survive because we face what others will not. That is what it means to be human." From the observation window, the Drethran colony could be seen shining like a small jewel in the darkness. It was untouched, thriving, and safe, thanks to humans who refused to believe that size or power alone dictated survival. Even distant observers in alien fleets, who had been monitoring the humans from afar, could not hide their astonishment. They expected the humans to fail, to panic, or to retreat. Instead, the humans had faced an impossible threat, adapted, and succeeded. For the first time, some aliens whispered among themselves, "Perhaps we underestimated them." But Mara did not hear their whispers. She only knew one thing. The galaxy was dangerous, but as long as humans faced it together, they could overcome anything. And somewhere deep in the stars, a lesson was being written for the entire galaxy. Humans may appear fragile, but their courage, ingenuity, and unity could challenge the very forces of the universe itself. The stars stretched endlessly around the Endurance as it left the Drethran cluster behind. For a brief moment, relief washed over the crew. They had stopped a disaster that no one else had dared to confront. The Drethran colony was safe. Lives had been saved, but peace was fleeting. Mara knew the galaxy did not reward hesitation. The energy surge had left fragments scattered, unstable, and dangerous. Every sensor ping reminded her that another crisis could erupt at any second. The universe had a way of testing humans, of reminding them that survival demanded courage beyond calculation. "Captain," Rafe said, voice tense, "we've detected a fragment containing high-energy radiation. It's heading straight toward the outer hull. If it hits, it could breach multiple compartments." Mara's jaw tightened. "We can't let it destroy the ship. Prepare an intercept team. Take it out before it reaches us." A small group of engineers suited up and prepared to board the fragment with a remote energy stabilizer, a risky maneuver that required precision and nerves of steel. Humans were small and fragile, but they had something larger than their size: fearlessness in the face of danger. Lieutenant Ayla, a young engineer with a quiet determination, stepped forward. "I'll go," she said. Her voice was calm, but Mara could see the fire in her eyes. "We can't let the ship suffer. I'll handle this." Mara placed a hand on Ayla's shoulder. "You don't have to do this alone. Trust your team. And come back," Ayla nodded. "I'll come back. I promise." The shuttle detached from the main ship, carrying Ayla and two other engineers toward the unstable fragment. As they approached, the radiation pulsed violently and the fragment shuddered as if alive. Sensors screamed warnings. Any wrong move could tear the shuttle apart. Back on the Endurance, the crew held their breath. They could not intervene directly. All they could do was watch and trust their teammates. Suddenly, an unexpected spike of energy hit the fragment. The stabilizer faltered. Ayla's voice came over the comms, steady but urgent. "Captain, it's unstable. We can't hold it. I'm redirecting the energy manually." "No!" Mara shouted. "You can't do it alone." "Yes," Ayla said calmly. "We survive as a team, Captain. But sometimes one must make a choice." The fragment shivered violently, and then, with precision and sheer will, Ayla managed to redirect the energy away from the ship. The shuttle rocked violently. Sparks flew. Alarms blared. The fragment broke apart safely, the deadly radiation dissipating harmlessly into space. But the shuttle did not return. Ayla and her team had sacrificed themselves to protect the Endurance. The crew stared in silence at the empty comm channel. For the first time in the mission, fear, grief, and sorrow flooded the bridge. Mara's eyes burned with unshed tears, but her voice remained steady. "They chose to protect us," she said softly. "That is the strength of humans. Courage, loyalty, sacrifice. Isla and her team remind us what it means to be human. We will honor them by continuing. We survive because we care for each other, even when the cost is high." The alien fleets that had been monitoring from afar now witnessed something entirely new. Humans who risked life and limb not for power, not for conquest, but for one another. Their bravery was not flashy, it was not loud, but it was undeniable. In the aftermath, the crew of the Endurance worked silently, grief mixed with determination. Every hand was steady, every mind focused. They repaired the ship, recalibrated sensors, and prepared to continue the mission. Mara stood at the observation deck, staring into the vast star field. Memories of Ayla and the other engineers swirled in her mind. Their courage, their laughter, their unwavering dedication. The galaxy would never know their names, but she would, and she would carry their sacrifice as fuel for every challenge to come. Rafe approached quietly. "Do you think the galaxy will understand us?" he asked. Mara shook her head slowly. "No, not yet. They see only the size of our ships, the limits of our weapons. They do not see what we carry inside. But they will learn. Every act of courage, every choice to protect each other, writes a story they cannot ignore. And somewhere, far beyond the Endurance, the stars themselves seemed to hum in acknowledgement. The humans were no longer simply a species in the galaxy. They were a force defined by heart, courage, and an unyielding will to survive. The lesson was clear. Survival came not from avoiding danger, but from facing it together, even when the cost was heartbreak. And the galaxy would soon learn that humans, though fragile in form, were unbreakable in spirit. The humans had barely recovered from the Drethran cluster when an urgent alert sounded across the bridge of the Endurance. Mara's eyes scanned the readings, her heart tightening. A massive alien fleet had appeared on their sensors. Andari, Trilax and Zorvans, numbering in the hundreds of ships, sleek, heavily armed, and ready for war. "They're coming for us," Lieutenant Rafe said, his voice grim. "They think we're weak. They think they can destroy us easily." Mara's jaw set. "Let them think that. Humans survive not because we are the strongest, but because we refuse to surrender. Prepare the crew. We're going to show them the truth." The aliens approached with precision and confidence, their weapons charging. Every sensor screamed warnings, but the humans did not panic. On the contrary, there was a quiet intensity aboard the Endurance, a calm born of trust, unity, and experience. "Listen up," Mara said, addressing her crew. "We cannot match them ship for ship. We cannot outgun them, but we can outthink them. We survive because we adapt. We survive because we fight together. Stay sharp. Trust each other. Move as one." The fleet opened fire. Beams of energy lanced through space, tearing at the human shields. The Endurance shuddered violently as the first blast struck, sparks flying across consoles. Yet the humans remained composed. Their movements were coordinated, precise, and unpredictable. Rafe activated a series of rapid maneuvers. Evasive pattern Delta. "Use the asteroids for cover." The human ship darted among floating debris, twisting and spinning in ways the aliens had never anticipated. Shots meant to destroy them flew harmlessly past, striking empty space. The humans' small size and unpredictable tactics made them almost impossible targets. Mara gave calm, clear orders. "Use the secondary energy burst to create temporary decoys. Divert their sensors. Let's see how they react when we are not where they expect us." The alien commanders hesitated, unaccustomed to such tactics. Their fleets, trained for overwhelming force and direct assaults, were confused by human unpredictability. Time and again, human ingenuity allowed the Endurance to evade destruction. During a brief lull, Mara glanced at her crew. Faces were tense, sweaty, but determined. They thought we were weak, she said softly. Let's show them what humans are capable of. Rafe's hands moved rapidly over the console. Captain, if we push the energy dampeners to full, we can create a shockwave that might disable their lead ships temporarily. But it's risky. It could damage us too. Mara thought of Ayla and the engineers who had sacrificed themselves in the Drethran cluster. She thought of every human who had ever risked life for another. Do it, she ordered. We are not afraid of risk. We survive because we act, not because we wait. Energy surged through the ship. A pulse radiated outward, temporarily disabling several of the alien lead vessels. Chaos rippled through their fleet. Their formations broke, their confidence shaken. The humans had turned the battle not with brute force but with strategy, courage, and ingenuity. The alien admirals were stunned. How could such a small, seemingly fragile species manipulate a fleet hundreds of times larger? Some of them began to whisper disbelief in their voices. They're smarter, faster, stronger than we expected, but the humans did not gloat. They stayed focused, continuing to protect their ship while pressing forward, striking only where necessary, always moving as one unit. Every action was precise, every decision deliberate. Their bravery inspired a sense of awe even among those who had come to destroy them. Finally, after hours of tense maneuvering and clever tactics, the alien fleet withdrew. They had not been defeated in the traditional sense, but they had learned a harsh lesson. Humans were not weak. They were cunning, resilient, and unpredictable in ways that no one had anticipated. The bridge of the Endurance erupted in quiet relief. Crew members leaned against consoles, catching their breath. Mara stood at the observation deck, looking at the retreating alien ships, her eyes steady but filled with pride. They will remember this, Rafe said quietly. They underestimated us. They will not make that mistake again. Mara nodded. Let them learn. The galaxy is bigger than any one species, but humans survive, not because we are the largest or strongest, but because we fight together, because we care, because we never give up, and that is something no one can ever take from us. Somewhere in the distance, the stars seemed to shine brighter, not because of the humans' weapons or technology, but because of their courage, their unity, and their spirit. The galaxy was learning slowly but surely that humans were not just another species, they were extraordinary. And as the Endurance continued its journey, Mara knew the truth. The real battles were yet to come. But no matter the odds, humans would survive. They always had, and they always would. The Endurance drifted through the quiet expanse of space, leaving the remnants of the alien fleet behind. The crew moved in silent reflection, their bodies tired, their minds buzzing with the adrenaline of battle. For the first time since leaving Earth, the weight of the galaxy's expectations pressed heavily upon them. They had survived what no one thought possible, but at a cost. Captain Mara stood at the observation deck, staring into the distant stars. Each one seemed to pulse like a heartbeat, a reminder that the universe was vast, indifferent, and dangerous. Yet it was also a place of possibility, a place where humans could carve their own path. Lieutenant Rafe approached quietly, leaning on the railing beside her. They've never seen anything like us, he said softly. Not the Andari, not the Zorvans, not even the Tralax. They thought we were fragile. Now, they know we're not. Mara nodded, her jaw firm. They don't understand yet, she said. They see our ships, our numbers, our weapons, but they haven't seen the real strength, the courage to keep moving, to keep protecting each other even when everything seems lost. That is human strength. That is what they will remember. Down on the bridge, the crew began the long process of repairing the ship. Panels were replaced, shields recalibrated, and systems checked. Every human moved with care, aware that each task, no matter how small, mattered. Even in exhaustion, there was precision, determination, and teamwork, a quiet testament to their resilience. A comm signal blinked. It was the Drethran colony, sending a message of gratitude. The humans watched in silence as words of thanks appeared across the display. You risked your lives for us. We will never forget. Tears stung Mara's eyes. She turned to Rafe. "This is why we do it," she whispered. "Not for glory, not for recognition, but for each other. That is what humans carry. That is why we survive." As the Endurance continued its journey, news of the humans' bravery spread faster than any technology could deliver. Across star systems, alien species began to speak in hushed tones, sharing stories of a small, fragile-looking species that faced impossible dangers without fear. They spoke of humans who outsmarted massive fleets, stabilized deadly energy surges, and sacrificed their own lives for one another. The galaxy had begun to notice. On distant worlds, children listened to tales of humans as bedtime stories. Scholars debated their tactics. Commanders reconsidered their fleet strategies. For the first time, humans were no longer dismissed. They were studied, respected, and feared in equal measure. Back on the Endurance, Mara convened a meeting with her senior officers. "We've shown the galaxy that humans are more than they thought," she said. "But this is just the beginning. The universe is vast, and there will be more challenges, more threats, more tests. We cannot become complacent. We must continue to lead, to protect, and to show the galaxy what it truly means to be human." A soft hum of agreement rippled through the room. There was exhaustion, yes, but also pride. Every human aboard understood the weight of their actions, and every one of them felt the quiet thrill of knowing that the galaxy's perception had shifted forever. Mara walked to the observation deck once more. She could see distant nebulae painting the void with colors no human eye had ever seen from Earth. She thought of Ayla and the engineers who had given their lives in the Drethran cluster, of the crew who had maneuvered through impossible danger, of the humans on Earth who had dreamed of the stars long before they could reach them. "They thought we were weak," Mara murmured. "They were wrong. Humans are not weak. We endure, we adapt, we fight, and we survive. That is our truth." Rafe stood beside her, gazing at the same stars. "Do you think they will ever truly understand us?" Mara smiled faintly, a mixture of sadness and determination in her eyes. "Not yet, but they will. Every act of courage, every choice to protect each other, every impossible decision we make, it changes the galaxy. We do not need them to understand us fully. We just need them to witness what humans are capable of." And as the Endurance sailed further into the uncharted depths of space, humans began to take their place not as weak observers, but as a force the galaxy could no longer ignore. Their story was spreading, their reputation growing, and their spirit shining brighter than any star. For the first time, the galaxy began to realize something fundamental. Humans were small, fragile, and seemingly ordinary, but within them burned a strength that no technology, no weapon, and no alien fleet could ever contain. And the universe would never be the same again. The galaxy was changing. Word of the humans' courage and ingenuity had spread like wildfire through the stars. Systems that once dismissed Earth's small blue planet now paused to consider the species that had faced impossible dangers and survived. Across star systems, diplomats, scholars, and soldiers whispered the same words in awe and disbelief. Humans are not weak. On the Endurance, Captain Mara stood at the observation deck, looking at the vast expanse of stars. Each point of light reminded her of the countless lives in the galaxy, lives humans had touched, protected, and inspired. She thought of her crew, of Ayla and the engineers who had given everything to save their ship and others. Their sacrifice was not forgotten. It was the cornerstone of humanity's reputation, a symbol of the species' heart and courage. Lieutenant Rafe joined her silently, leaning on the railing. "Do you ever wonder," he asked quietly, "if the galaxy will ever fully understand what we've done?" Mara shook her head, a faint smile on her lips. "Maybe not fully, but understanding is not always necessary. What matters is that they've seen us. They've seen that humans fight not for power or glory, but because we care. That's something every alien fleet, every ruler, every species will remember, and it will change how they see the universe." Below, the crew prepared for the next mission. Repairs were finished, new charts plotted, and supplies loaded. Humans had proven their strength, but they never sought rest in pride. Their work was far from done. Each human understood that survival depended on vigilance, unity, and courage. News came through the communications channels, messages of gratitude from distant colonies, tales of human bravery being shared by alien fleets, and formal recognition from species that had once doubted them. Mara read one message aloud to her crew. "Your people have shown the galaxy the meaning of courage. You are an inspiration. You are humanity's legacy." The bridge erupted in quiet applause. There were smiles, tears, and laughter. Yet beneath it all, there was a profound understanding. Humans had done more than survive. They had changed the galaxy's perception forever. Mara turned to her crew, her eyes burning with pride and determination. "We did not fight to be heroes," she said softly. "We fought because it was right, because we could not stand by and do nothing. We fought because that is what humans do. And because of that, the galaxy will remember us, not for our size, not for our weapons, but for our hearts." As they traveled through uncharted systems, humans encountered species who once scorned them, now offering tentative alliances, shared knowledge, and cautious respect. Mara realized something profound. Humanity's strength was not only in their courage and ingenuity, but in their ability to inspire others. One evening, as the ship passed a glowing nebula, Mara reflected on the journey. The universe was vast, full of dangers, wonders, and mysteries. Humans had only just begun to explore it, yet already their story was being written into the very fabric of galactic history. Rafe stood beside her, silent for a moment, then said, "Do you think we've made a difference?" Mara's gaze held the stars, distant suns burning brightly. "We've shown them that even the smallest species can change the universe. That courage, hope, and unity are stronger than fear or technology. That humans are not weak, and the galaxy will never forget that." Years later, tales of the Endurance and its crew became legend. Children across star systems learned about humans who faced impossible odds, who sacrificed for one another, and who stood against the most powerful fleets in the galaxy. Histories were rewritten, strategies were studied. The once dismissed species from a tiny blue planet became a symbol of hope, resilience, and the enduring power of unity. On Earth, generations looked up at the night sky with pride. Across colonies in distant star systems, humans continued to explore, to protect, and to inspire. They carried the lessons of their ancestors: courage in the face of danger, loyalty to one another, and the unshakable belief that even the smallest among them could change the universe. And somewhere in the vast reaches of space, alien fleets spoke in hushed tones. They said humans were weak. They were wrong. The humans endure. They survive. They inspire, and we will never underestimate them again. Captain Mara stood one last time on the observation deck, looking at the stars that stretched endlessly ahead. Her crew moved around her, alive, determined, and ready for whatever lay beyond. She smiled, quietly proud of what they had accomplished. The galaxy had learned the truth. Humans were not weak. They were extraordinary, and the story of humanity, its courage, unity, and unyielding spirit would shine across the stars for all time.